Okay, everybody, welcome back to Your Crisis Coach with I need a new adjective for you, Scott. A new verb, something exciting and new and fresh, but I'll go with stupendous this week. Stupendous, Scott H. Silverman. Is that good enough?
Is that with a capital S? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fred.
Okay. So how are you, Scott?
I'm well. I just celebrated a birthday. I just celebrated, I can't remember, just celebrated my 72nd birthday.
Wow.
Got a lot of accolades from everybody here on the screen. Thank you so much. And that was, my sister called me. She says, "Do you feel any different?" And I said, "I can't remember. It's a day of the year, and I had my Scott Silverman day last week. So it was a good week. It was really a good week, Fred. And sitting in sunny Southern California. And of course, my daughter's in New York, reminding me how cold it is there. So it was a good week. How was your week, man? You're in the weather.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just tiring at this point. We got a lot of snow this year. This new storm brought 20 inches last night, and I'm kind of tired. But like I don't leave the house anyway. It's not like I go anywhere. My studio is here. I do all my work from home.
Did you do any snow shoveling?
Just a little. I went out. I had to shovel myself out of the house this morning because the both doors got trapped in. So I had to climb out the bathroom window to go get the shovel and shovel from outside in. But, it was nice out. It was in the 20s. So it was comfortable. You didn't sweat or anything. So it is what it is. I'm just tired of it. I'm over it. But who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody actually cares.
I care.
Well, you care from afar. It's 3,000-mile care.
That's true.
It's a nod and a pour for Ed.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with it. It toughens us up. That's why East Coast people are so tough.
There you go.
And miserable. So what do you got going on today? What do you...
Well, today's a special day. Today, I think, is our largest group we've ever had on our podcast. And not only is a largest group, it's a special group. This is my work family, and they all participate in serving others at Confidential Recovery here in San Diego. And each one of them has a specific role, what they do and how they do it. And it's actually taken about a year to kind of plan this and get them on the calendar and have them in front of you. And I'm honored to have them here today because they're able to confirm what we do. And more importantly, they're on the front line meeting with the clients. So we're gonna start with Lori, who's on the clinical team. And then we'll go right across my screen. We'll go to Jay, and then we'll go to Francesca, and then we'll go to Brendan. And each one of them is going to share a little bit about their story and what they do at Confidential Recovery. And then we're going to circle back around and what they like and what they don't like and what it is people that will listen to their story in the near future need to know. So, Lori, would you mind starting us off?
Yes. No, I don't mind. What would you like to know about my story? That was my first question.
Well,
how I got in the field?
Well, people that will see this will hopefully be family members, people that will look at our website and they'll go, what kind of people do this kind of work? What kind of people really are in the helping people business? There's a lot of people in the treatment business, but you really never meet them until you get to treatment. And then there's a short window that they have that experience with you, and then they're up and off and running to whatever happens and never see them again. And one of the things that we do, I think that's unique, is we don't want people to go away. We want them to stay with us. We want them to be part of a continuum of care and not only stop using and drinking, if you will, or dealing with untreated trauma, but also have a real life. And a lot of people who've been under the influence need to learn how to do that. And I think we provide a platform from that. And you've been a catalyst for that platform for many years now. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working for Confidential Recovery because there's a sense of community in the recovery business. I shouldn't say business, but a sense of community. I'm very passionate of what I do and what I believe in. I do believe that everybody can change. Everyone has the ability to change their behavior. And I believe in every single one of the people that come through the door. Having somebody else starting to believe in yourself, which in turn you start believing in yourself that you can recover and be in recovery and sobriety. I've worked in the field for many years. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy meeting other people in the field with a different perspective of how they help somebody in recovery. I'm open to suggestions. One of the aspects that I like about confidential recovery, because it's so unique, it's so different. It's not a traditional recovery setting where there's rigid boundaries. Yes, boundaries need to happen, but they extend to make the person feel that somebody cares about them. And that's the strong sense that I get at confidential recovery is we do care about the people. We do care about the family members. We go beyond what traditional treatment centers do. We invest in our clients.
That's great. Thank you. Jay, you're up next.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Fred, thanks for hosting us. Yeah, my story's it's interesting in that I came as a young adult. I joined the Navy. I was in the Navy for a really long time. I thought that's what I was supposed to do with my life. And it was a great career. I was very successful at it. Wound up being the commanding officer of a guided missile destroyer. And that was a great job. But I didn't understand what that job was costing me. And so I developed a really serious drinking problem because that was my coping strategy for all the stresses of command and combat and all those other things. And that caught up with me. Turns out the Navy really doesn't like drunk destroyer captains that much. Who knew? And I was asked to leave rather abruptly. And as painful as it was at the time, that's the best thing that ever happened to me because that's how I got sober. And I got some help. And after I left the Navy, I decided I'd try and, stick with what I knew. I went back to try and work in the defense industry, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out because my background kept popping up. They're like, "Hey, you're that drunk guy that you got in all that trouble. You can't get a security clearance. You can't do this. You can't do that." And I thought, well, what does God want me to do when I grow up? And I thought, well, I really like helping other people in recovery. I'm in a 12-step community and help others. Maybe I can do more with that. So I went back and got my drug and alcohol counseling certificate through the GI Bill. And I met Scott. Through some other people I knew in recovery. And I said, can you show me the ropes? And he said, yeah, you can come on and, we'll see how it works out. And it turned out a couple of Scott's partners had some other things pop up. And so I wound up becoming his, essentially his partner and kind of running things in confidential recovery. And then the pandemic hit. Woo! That was quite a trip. And, but we got through it and we connected with the VA, and that started a new path for confidential recovery in that we were able to help, in addition to helping working adults, doctors, lawyers, pilots, all these other folks, we started being able to help veterans and active duty service members and other folks. And in fact, as we grew, we were able to hire some staff that have military experience and have been our veterans themselves. And a lot of our staff is in recovery ourselves, kind of what Lori was saying. And so now we are connecting with our clients in a way that I think a lot of programs don't, because, we've been there, we've done that, we've got the t-shirt, right? We've had a lot of the same experiences, and we're able to help them with real world problems in addition to just what they're experiencing with substance abuse. A lot of times when somebody comes into recovery, they've still got the problem with their broken down car, or I can't get benefits, or I got to get a job, or I don't have a place to live. And we're able to help connect those individuals with resources, especially if they're veterans, because we have such good ties with the VA and with other veteran service organizations. So being here has been really special. I've come to be very close to the staff as well as the clients. And, what I really treasure is that sometimes a client will say, "You're the only people in my life who are calling me. You're the only people in my world right now that are listening to me and that are trying to help me," because, they've burned down all their other relationships. And then to see those people put their lives back together and reconnect with family and rebuild those relationships, it's priceless. Not to be cliche, but it really is. And one of the things we've done here is we've created an alumni group where people come back, and this Wednesday, we're going to do an alumni barbecue. We're going to welcome back a lot of our folks who've been with us for a while. And we've got our current folks here so we can show them, hey, look, these folks have done it. You can do it too. And we should be giving out a 4-year sobriety token to one of our returning clients. I mean, that's crazy. And we have a cadre of about 6 or 7 people who have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. 3 of them are going on 5 years of sobriety now after being through our program, and they still keep coming back regularly to our alumni group. So I think what Lori said about, kind of the family feel and being connected is really true. And I think that's what works in recovery, is that connection and being a little bit more intimate. I'll close with this. We have a great partnership with some of the other programs we work with. One thing our clients say is that a lot of their programs feel kind of clinical. They're very academic or educational, and they say they feel different here. They feel it's more intimate, it's more real, and they have that connection. And that's, although we do offer virtual services, a lot of people want to come here in person because they want to be with other people in recovery. We had a young lady who joined our program a while ago, and she said, I want to go virtually because I have a lot of social anxiety. We said, okay, that's cool, you can do that. And so she did her first group, and so we did the first half of the group, and then we took our break, and then we were getting ready to start the second half of the group, and she comes walking in the office. We're like, hey, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, I was in a parking lot, and I was doing the group, and it just looked so inviting. I wanted to be there, and so I came. So that's kind of a unique thing. A lot of programs can't say that. It's very, we're not perfect. We are family. Sometimes we fuss and we feud, and we do it because we're passionate. We do it because we care about the clients, and we really want what's best for them. And, we take it very seriously. And I think that's what makes it a little different.
That's great. Francesca, before we go to you, I want to correct you on one thing you said, Jay, and I think it's important to do it now before I forget. You said that, or I heard you say that you kind of run things there. Heart to heart, you run things there. So I appreciate that, because I know that's your way of kind of making me feel like I'm still part of the day-to-day. And, I'm not a clinician. I don't do that. You guys provide that service for people and do all the background work. And I'm the 1% person here. I'm the talking head. I talk to Fred, and you guys do the work. So Francesca, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I'm honored to be here and be a part of this podcast today and be able to share a little bit, I guess, about me. I have had the opportunity to come here as a student intern and then be able to work in the clinical side and the administrative side. So I'm kind of like a little all hats on deck in this place. It's amazing to be able to help others and see people's growth. And I came from a background that primarily a lot of people in my family have substance use disorder diagnosis, and it has created a lot of hardships, and I've seen a lot of relationships, fall and just a lot of repetitive patterns. So I've developed a very passionate and heart for this kind of community. So being able to help support that and come here and provide my experience in the real world in addition to my educational experience it's wonderful. And there's a lot of value here. It's not just us helping the clients. A lot of times I believe the clients help us in many ways. They, as we're providing, they're also teaching us. Sometimes you learn something new every day, and everybody has a different situation. Even if there's a lot of similarities, everybody's story is a little different, and you get to learn something. You get to grow with the client. You get to experience when they have pain, you get to help them through that. So it's really rewarding, I'd say. And here, like everybody else is saying, it's intimate. I haven't worked in any other IOP services before, but from what I'm gathering from hearing from other clients and staff is that we do operate a little differently. We honestly operate like a family. So we try to meet the clients where they're at. They come here, we try to make them feel comfortable being able to, it's a very vulnerable place to be in, and to allow them to share and feel comfortable is huge. It's fun working with the staff and trying to come up with a lot of ideas on how we can do different things to create more fulfilling groups, whether it's creativity and art, or going out for an adventure, or barbecue nights. We are looking forward to trying to host a movie night, and there's all different kinds of things. We are continuously racking our brains about how can we make this better than the day before. Even if the day before was great, how can we keep getting to greatness with them? And it's a lot of positive. You get to see a lot of things, and we do have a lot of clients that remain sober and reach those 30 to that 60 to that 90, and next thing you know, they hit a year, and I'm more than thankful and proud to be a part of many of those achievements with them and my team as well.
Francesca, that was great. I like the way you framed today's a little better than yesterday, and I also like what you said about learning from our clients, because that's the human part, I think, that makes the difference. Because it doesn't matter if you're a doctor or you're a lawyer or you're in law enforcement or you're a veteran or you're a general or you're a commander or you're a teacher or you're a banker or you're a student. When you have suffered from this disease of addiction, when you come and get some help, we all start at the same place, including myself. It doesn't matter what your skill sets were, or who you are, or what you did. When this disease, and you're looking to get clean and sober, you're starting over. Not from ground zero with all your knowledge, but how to learn to live life on life's terms. So thanks for sharing that, Francesca. And we saved the best for last. Brendan, you've looked very serious this morning, so I know you're going to bring your A game. How are you, buddy? What's on your mind?
Thank you, Scott. So I come from a military background. I've been through IOP, through the VA, and the very kind of what Jay was saying, how the IOP is conducted outside of confidential recovery. This is a very unique program. This is something I was looking for myself. I went back to school after being in law enforcement for so many years. They kept me out of the rooms and kept me in my disease because of trying to bury everything and keep it under wraps, which therefore did not work. When I got into this field, I was looking for something unique. By the grace of God, through the rooms, I was able to find, through my sponsor, Scott, and this unique program that I am now a part of for several years. It's got all the great bells and whistles that you wouldn't see, like has been mentioned throughout here. The activity based, it's a action program rather than just sitting in a group and talking. That's where we get that camaraderie and the uniqueness that we're looking for and that I was looking for. It's bringing all these professionals, as you said, Scott, into the rooms where before they're hesitant like myself. And we're able to meet everybody at all aspects of their lives and careers, regardless of who they are. That's the uniqueness that we bring here and the confidentiality aspect of things. I don't have much more to say than it's a great program, and everybody here from the staff from day one all the way through alumni absolutely 100% cares about every single person that walks through this door. And that's why we are unique. That's all I have.
Thanks, Brendan. Fred, over to you. You have something on your mind?
Yeah, well, first thing is if I hear barbecue one more time, I'm going to freak out because I can't even see mine and I want to cook something. But what I want to know, one thing is knowing that the fail rate for most of these types of places is still at currently nationally at a 95% fail rate. What is yours? Do you know what the fail rate is?
So, that's a good point, because I think fail rate is a snapshot in time, right? So if somebody comes here and, does their time and then goes out and has a relapse, yeah, you could consider that a failure. But then what we're finding is that a lot of times the client is calling us and they're saying, hey, I had an oops, I need to come back. So, they see us as a safe space, and then they come back and like Scott said, they start over. I mean, we've had probably have 20 to 60 veterans a week come through here, 20, 60 clients. Over the last year, I've probably seen 10 people reach out to us, at least 10, reach out and say, hey, I used to be in your program, I want to come back. That's significant. And so over time, that 95% failure rate gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's just, it hits when it hits. We have a person who has been here a number of times and is approaching 30 days of sobriety, which is something that person has never accomplished before, which is really cool. But it takes what it takes. I'd say our 95%, well, we don't have a 95% fail rate. I mean, we have I would say a closer to a 40 or 50% success rate, but I think that's going up and up over time. And a lot of other places, they don't take them back, or the person doesn't want to come back because they had such a crappy experience there. So I think I'm feeling pretty confident that, over time, our rate is getting better and better. And one of the things we want to do this year in particular, as we grow, is to be able to collect a lot more data, get some more metrics so that, the next time we're with you, this time next year, and you ask me that same question, I'll be able to say it's a 76.2% success rate over a 2-year period or whatever that happens to be. But yeah, it's a conundrum, and it's really difficult because we have to talk to decision makers, our county supervisors or elected officials or different members of the community. And their attitude is, hey, recovery doesn't work. People keep relapsing. It's like, well, yeah, because it's really hard. And the thing is, if we can plant a seed in people's minds and let them know that you can always come back, then over time, I think that success rate becomes a lot higher. But it's difficult to communicate that sometimes.
Right. I think you said something important there with how that number. Do we really know what they're even basing that number 95 off? And this is for everyone nationally, because does this mean, let's say I check into a rehab, just my local one here, and 3 days later I leave, but then 7 days later I come back and now I'm sober 10 years. Did I fail or did I succeed? Did I fail once? So the number gets skewed that way. But another question I have is, listening to all your stories and your connections to this, do you have to have a connection with addiction to help somebody with addiction? Do you have to be a former addict? Do you have to have a close family member? Does that help? Does it hurt? Does it not matter? Can anybody do this?
I personally think, well, just to kind of piggyback off the first question, what you stated was what I was going to piggyback off, Jay, because, who's determined failure in that number? And, I'd say a confidential recovery, most of our clients who have the oops and the relapse, I don't refer to it as a failure. I refer it to as an obstacle that is part of their journey to have a lesson learned for a greater path. And, sometimes we need those hiccups in order to be reminded once more. So that way, the next time we come in, we're stronger. And you see a lot of our clients come back after that with honesty, which I'm not sure, but I would assume it's not as often everywhere else. And for us to make that comfortability here where they can come and be honest. And another point is a lot of our clients are predominantly men, and, sometimes there's a lot of ego with that. And so to have somebody come and say, hey, I relapsed, and we know there's shame, there's embarrassment, there's guilt, to meet them where they're at and provide that safe spot for them to return and not feel those type of emotions is huge. And we do see that a lot here, where they can come back and return, and we don't make them feel like failures. We make them feel like, hey, life happens and you're here today, and there's a reason why you're here today, which tells me you're stronger than you were yesterday, and there's a purpose. And so I believe in that lifelong journey, and what happens for a reason. Yeah. In terms of your second question, I think having a part of either a family member or a personal experience with addiction, I think that does make it stronger to help others in this area, because you can relate to their emotions, their thoughts, their experience. I mean, there's so much that you can help with that. Do I think it's mandatory or, it have to be there? No, because are we talking about drugs? Are we talking about alcohol? Are we talking about a shopping addiction? There's so many different types of addictions out there. We can't limit that aspect. So I think it determines on the subject. I think if you come with personal experience, you're enhancing the ability to help somebody, but I don't think it's a mandatory thing, because everybody has something special within themselves to be able to provide for somebody else. And there's a lot of times, and when I'm help facilitating group, when I hear somebody share something, and we've had clients who came in and like, I've never been in trouble in my life. I've never done this before in my life. I happen to be here because it's court mandated, or, they ended up getting in trouble because their friend got caught, but they have to, obey the rules that follow the friend. And so there's been times when we've had people come here on that basis and they didn't have much to share because they didn't have a personal experience or a family member, but they learned something. And so I tell these clients, I'm like, you're paying it forward. You're paying your experience forward to help somebody else for their future. So I think I don't think we can limit somebody being able to help somebody else because they didn't have an addiction, but we also we have to broaden the sense of addiction to a little bit of everything.
Right. So you mentioned something else there that intrigued me, was you mentioned most of your clients are men. So is that because you deal with a lot of military, A, and there's more men in the military, B, because women don't seek help, or
say it's because of military? I think we see that in terms of that. We do have, a lot of women here as well, and they bring, it's interesting. You see differences, based on both genders and how they interact. It's a nurturing experience, and then they, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But no, I would say the men is based predominantly because of the military.
And our population of women is increasing. We've noticed that over the last, I'd say probably 6 months or so. And the number of our staff that are women is increasing as well. So we're actually a pretty balanced program when it comes to that. I would just add to something that Francesca said. I really thought it was cool is, I think you have to have a why for why you get into this field, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot. It can take a lot out of you. And, it can be very heartbreaking to watch somebody relapse over and over again. But on the other hand, just because, a doctor can treat cancer without having had to have had cancer themselves. And I think that's what some of our clinicians do. And I like the balance of people with lived experience and then some people who don't, because sometimes you're able to come at a problem from both perspectives. Like, yeah, I've been there, but, sometimes that makes me maybe a little overly empathetic. And, a clinician who's not in recovery can say, hey, I think maybe they need to live up to their commitments. Okay.
Right.
So it's good to have a balance.
I can chime in on that.
It is, even based off my question, that's the only reason I'm here. Well, not the only reason, but is to ask these types of questions, but it's also to learn and to let other people learn from the question. But it's unfortunate that in a lot of things in this world, we look at the fail rate versus the success rate. Because if you guys were baseball players, you'd be in the Hall of Fame. Baseball players fail. If you strike out 7 out of 10 times, you're in the Hall of Fame. As long as you get hits those other 3 times. And it doesn't work that way in life, or you don't get judged that way. And yeah, I think those are good answers to those questions. I didn't expect that we're aware that the fail rate's out there, but nobody talks about it as a more positive and says, what's your success rate? They do like I did and say fail rate. And that's on me, I guess. Did I fail you, Scott?
No, you did good. I'm going to go, but I want to hear from Lori because she seems very anxious to want to jump in. Lori, you want to jump in? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
You're mute.
Is she muted?
Yep.
That's okay.
Okay, there I am. Okay, I work with both sides, people that have an addiction history and those who don't. And sometimes it's night and day how they present it to the client. And it's a teaching moment to the ones that don't have an addiction, or to say, hey, this is how we see it. Why don't you see it in this perspective rather than just black and white? So like Jay said, I like the balance of our team, because I also do learn from those who don't have a background in addiction.
Which is it's almost become virtually impossible not to have any background in it, since what is the number now, Scott? One addict touches 15 per day, 15 per people negatively.
It's out of 10. It's an individual who's actively in their disease impacts 8 people negatively every day.
Yeah, and that's a lot. That's a lot on a daily basis. A lot of addicts, a lot of people.
I'm going to go back to your question myself and share. And thank you guys for your points of view. I think they're really important, and I think people need to hear it. That data originally comes from the statistic that if an individual, the average individual, goes to traditionally a 30-day inpatient program and then does nothing else after that, they have a 95% chance of relapsing. Part of what happens, as I shared earlier, is if you come into a facility and you're under the influence and have been impaired for years, if not decades, the first 30 days, you're basically just detoxing and trying to figure out how to get food in your mouth without poking your eye with a fork. And once you stabilize, if the benefits sunset, which they normally do after 30 days and even less now, 20 and even 15, and you don't continue your care, if you liken it to diabetes, it's like finding out you have diabetes and you don't check your blood sugar level every day, and you don't monitor your intake of certain foods and maintain a healthy lifestyle, you're going to deteriorate over time and you're going to die at a young life. So by having the continuum of care, which is why I wanted to be in the outpatient industry, if you will, is we can stay with people, up to historically about 60 days, that insurance will cover that, and then step them down and maybe stay with them 30 or even another 60. But one of the things that we've done, with our Veterans Navigation Center, for example, was created with the veterans to be able to keep them coming in. We're raising money for that charitable part of what we do, but we don't get reimbursed for it yet. So it's been a tough transition the last couple of years. But ultimately, if you've been doing something one way for 20 years, you're not going to change it in a month. It takes time to grow. And that's why I like the mix of having people who, some are in recovery, some aren't, some are, been dynamically, intensively more trained than others. Some come with a lot of lived experience. And you can't, in an interview, ask somebody, hey, were you a drunk before? Are you in your recovery? So it's not something we ask people, but I think it's important. And I think you hit on it, Francesca. It's people that want to help people. And there's a lot of people in county funded programs. It was a job for them. And they have 40 people in group, and half the group's there because they got a nudge from the judge, and all they want to do is be compliant so they can get out of that chair and go back to what they were doing. And we ask people, if it was working for you, do you want to go back to it if it wasn't? But even more importantly, I want to get to the heart, I think, of where we really excel. And that is, once you remove the anesthesia, once the self-medication is gone, as Jay likes to say, it's like a station wagon full of stuff in the back. And when you hit the brakes, everything comes barreling forward. It's all the underlying mental health issues. It's the untreated trauma. It's the catastrophic events. It's something that happened at childhood that never got dealt with. And those are the things that I think the folks that I work with really excel at. And that's where really wanting to help people comes in, because one size doesn't fit all. The disease is pretty common. The cure, if you will, for the substance use disorder piece, they've got, Bibles on it. But it's the person who's talking to the person who can make the difference between someone living a happy and joyous free life versus not. And that's where, the only reason I got in this industry is I wanted to stop going to funerals. And I love helping people. And I'm not a clinician. So I do it in a different way. I try to provide an environment, but I have some lived experience working with people with boundaries and barriers that no one's ever seen. And if you give them a shot, most people will go, thank you. That's fair. I'll meet you halfway. And once they do, Katie bar the door. Their trajectory is really under their control.
Scott, and anybody else here that could answer this, let's pretend I'm the person that comes to see you. I don't have insurance. I don't have anything. What happens right there when I come?
Hey, who wants to take that? Anybody want to take it? Brendan, do you want to take it?
Come on in. That's what we say.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, what we've done is when somebody approaches us, we try and see, how can we meet you where you're at? And, A lot of times that might be connecting you with another program that's more appropriate. So maybe you need to go do detox first. Maybe you need to go do inpatient first. Or maybe you need to get connected with resources so you can have insurance. Whatever it happens to be. But a lot of times we'll say, hey, come sit in on our group first. Check us out, see what it looks like. Let's see where you're at. What is it that you want to accomplish? What's your recovery goal? A lot of times when someone comes to see us, they'll come and say, man, I got a real problem with meth. Meth is ruining my life. And then we get to know them a little bit and they're like, well, yeah, I smoke cannabis too, but that's not a problem. Like, okay, let's talk about the meth first. And then, after maybe they've got 30 days off of meth, we'll say, hey, how's that cannabis working out for you? The thing is that we're taking something away from the individual, right? We're taking away their primary coping strategy.
Their
right?
best friend.
Their best friend, the way they've done their life for forever. So we have to give them something in place of that. And that's recovery. That's coping strategies. That's a healthy lifestyle. That's a fellowship of other people in recovery. That's other programs they can connect with long term. Maybe that's 12 steps. Maybe that's spiritual programs. Maybe that's a smart recovery. Who knows? But it's not just us. We're trying to build you an entire tool of toolkits that you can use to help you grow. And the other thing too is that we use cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy, mindfulness. We introduce you to a whole bunch of things that you can see what works for you and what doesn't. And you don't have to do it one way or the other. You can take whatever tools work for you. So we try and work with the individual to figure out what's going to work for them, what's the right program for them. And, for the financial part, we do take self-pay. We do, we scholarship based on ability to pay. We try and work with you as best we can. At the end of the day, we still have to pay the staff. I have really gotten accustomed to eating. It's not my best habit, but, I'm really accustomed to it. And, we got to pay for the lights. We got to pay for the, the water bill and all that stuff. So, we have to cover our operating costs, but we don't have to take it out on the backs of clients. And we'd like to get you stabilized. And one of the other things that we always do is if somebody calls us and we're not the right fit for whatever reason, they need a higher level of care, they need some other support that is outside of the scope of our practice, we always say, hey, look, here's some referrals, here's some other programs that might work better for you. But I'll tell you what, if you call them and you're not getting the answer you're looking for, call me back, and we'll try and find something else for you because we don't want to leave you without support.
Excellent. Okay, Scott.
Fred,
get ready to close it, Scott.
Fred, I want to just speak to Brenda's point. When we ask people, just come on in, to Jay's point, we'll do what we can to get them referred out. It's amazing. Most people who spend a lot of their adult life trying to get high, they have a resource somewhere. There's a family member somewhere. There's a loved one. There's a significant other. And if they hear you're going to try to get better, they might step up and help. And it's amazing. And when people say, well, I can't afford the copay. Well, wait a minute. What did you say you spent last year on drugs? How much was your bar bill at the casino when you lost 10 grand that month you shared with me? Where there's a will, there's a way. And that's what we try to tap into. And that's where the relationship starts at the beginning. And that's why we want to do more of what we're doing. And to Jay's point, we have overhead we have to take care of. So anyway, I want to thank you guys very much for coming out and taking time away from what you're doing and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. And I really appreciate your comments and your thoughts and your feelings about why you're doing what you're doing. And I know that we have a lot of exciting things in front of us this year. And I can't wait to start chipping away at them. And really, next year we do this, we have 15 on our podcast, and the year after we have 30. And then we start having clients come into our podcast talking about what worked for them so they can be an inspiration to others on a broader scale. Thanks very much. Fred?
Okay. Well, I thank everybody for joining and answering my questions that I like to play the devil's advocate from time to time. But I think that's the best approach usually to get an answer, whether I'm right or I'm wrong. But this is your crisis coach. That's Scott H. Silverman. I'm Fred Carroll. And if nobody has told you they love you today, we love you, and we'll see you again next week.